The night should have been calm, the kind of stillness that wraps a harbor after midnight, when even the sea seems to fall asleep. But that illusion shattered the moment a rough hand clamped over the young guard's mouth and a low, gravelly whisper pressed into her ear, trembling with urgency, "Don't talk, they'll kill you." In that instant, the floodlights above the shipping yard felt colder, the shadows sharper, and her heartbeat louder than the distant hum of cranes. She had expected boredom, maybe a stray cat crossing her path, maybe the rustling of wind between stacked containers, but instead, terror wrapped itself around her throat, and everything she thought she understood about danger unraveled in seconds. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, compassion, and the power of second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. Her name was Lucia, a 22-year-old rookie security guard who had taken the night shift to pay for her mother's medical bills. She stood barely 5'5", with soft features and the kind of gentle eyes that made people assume she wasn't cut out for danger. But Lucia was tougher than she looked. Life had never given her luxury, only responsibility. The harbor job was supposed to be stable, predictable, a place where she could blend into the shadows and quietly earn what she needed. But fate had a cruel sense of timing. The man holding her was broad-shouldered, heavily tattooed, and looked like someone who had lived through storms most people couldn't imagine. His vest was emblazoned with a skull patch, unmistakably from a biker group she had only heard rumors about. She expected violence from someone dressed like him, but instead she felt something unexpected in his grip, not cruelty, but fear. A fear so real it seeped into her, making her bones tremble. He slowly loosened his hand just enough for her to breathe, but not enough for her to speak. His eyes, a piercing gray, scanned the maze of shipping containers like a hunted animal. Lucia didn't yet know his name. She didn't know what danger he had brought with him. But she felt it, the kind of danger that doesn't announce itself, but slithers between steel and shadows, silent and deadly. As he pulled her deeper into the labyrinth of containers, she smelled blood before she saw it. A trail of dark drops smeared across the concrete, disappearing into the darkness behind them. Every step felt like walking into a nightmare she was never trained for. He finally released her, and she stumbled backward, gasping. His voice, though low, carried the weight of someone desperate, someone running out of time. He told her in fractured pieces that he had witnessed something he never should have. A smuggling operation, far more ruthless than anything his biker world had ever touched. The men who ran it didn't just silence threats, they buried them. When they caught him snooping, they shot him and left him for dead. He survived only because he crawled between crates and bled quietly in the dark. When he saw her patrolling alone, he panicked. Not because he meant to hurt her, but because he knew they were still hunting him, and now they would hunt her too. Lucia's mind raced. She could run, she could call for backup. She could pretend she never saw him, but something in his voice, something fragile beneath all the grit, told her that to walk away would be condemning someone to die. She had grown up watching her mother care for people who the world abandoned. Compassion ran through her not as a choice, but as instinct. So instead of fleeing, she steadied herself, surprising even him with the resolve in her trembling hands. She guided him into an empty security shed, flicked off the lights, and pressed gauze against the wound in his side. It wasn't deep enough to be fatal, but deep enough to slow him down. His breathing eased, but only slightly. Outside, engines roared to life, several of them, heavy. Boots hit the ground. Shadows moved with purpose. The smugglers were sweeping the yard. Lucia's pulse drummed in her ears. She had never felt so small, but fear had a curious way of sharpening a person. She checked her radio, dead. Someone had jammed the signal. The harbor's main power flickered, then dimmed, casting long, eerie silhouettes across the metal structures. She realized the smugglers weren't just searching, they were shutting everything down to corner their prey. She looked at the biker, his name now whispered between breaths. Mason, a man used to fighting, reduced to hiding in a cramped shed with a stranger who owed him nothing. He murmured that he never wanted this. He had joined his biker group looking for brotherhood, not bloodshed. And now, because he tried to expose something monstrous, he had become prey. Lucia felt a strange ache in her chest, sympathy mixed with dread. Mason wasn't the villain tonight. The real villains were closing in on both of them. She made a decision she couldn't unmake. She took Mason's arm, slipped out through the back door, and began navigating the yard using every shortcut she had memorized over months of lonely shifts. They ducked behind crates, sprinted between loading ramps, and crawled under machinery. Every time a flashlight beam came close, their breath locked in their throats. Every second felt borrowed. Then, just when they reached the far fence where emergency exit gate stood, a figure stepped out from the shadows, one of the smugglers. He lifted a gun, its barrel catching the faint glow of a distant ship's lights. Lucia froze. Mason pushed her behind him with the last shred of strength he had. But before the gunman could fire, Lucia did something she never imagined she could. With trembling hands, she activated the blinding flashlight clipped to her uniform, shining it directly into the assailant's eyes. He stumbled, swore, and Mason lunged, tackling him to the ground. The gun clattered away. Mason gasped in pain, but held on until the man stopped fighting. Lucia grabbed the gun, her hands shaking violently, and the two of them limped through the exit gate as distant sirens finally wailed. The power disruption had triggered an automatic alert. Backup was coming. They just had to stay alive long enough. When officers flooded the scene, Lucia stood trembling, blood on her hands, not hers, and Mason leaning heavily on her shoulder. He was taken to the hospital under police watch. She wondered if she would ever see him again. Days later, she did. Mason walked into the harbor office, cleaned up, patched up, and carrying a quiet gratitude in his eyes. The authorities had dismantled the smuggling ring thanks to his testimony. He told Lucia he never expected someone like her to risk everything for him. Lucia simply said that sometimes life gives you one moment, just one, to be the person you hope you are. And that night, in a cold shipping yard, she chose courage over fear. Humanity over indifference, a stranger over safety. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps them reach others who may need a reminder of courage and compassion.